Hello, everyone. Richard Carlton here. Ah, there's a box over my head. Quick, evasive action. All right, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to an awesome broadcast day. It's Monday. We are fully caffeinated, ready for you at fmtrain.tv, where we create great FileMaker training to help everyone become great FileMaker developers. For those of you out there, the Days and the TKs and the Mookie Lottos and the Jerichos and the Bobs, you guys are already experts. We're just trying to make you a little bit better. And so today's broadcast is on kind of a totally new topic. But before we get into that, let's cover some housekeeping. First off, we are broadcasting in high definition to 1080 on Discord, on YouTube, and on Twitch. And so you can watch on your choice of areas there. So we have a very exciting day today. So before we get going, upcoming broadcast schedule. Calvin Mosiman is back today and tomorrow. I've already had to do a preview with Calvin. I had to like formulate Calvin's brain to think in terms of not senior developers, but in terms of basic people, because Claris Connect for most people here is a brand new technology. We'll talk about pricing along the way. It's not free. It's that standard model where Claris is going to make life easier for you, but then they're going to charge you for that easiness. So you have to decide if it's right for you. So we have 2 days of Claris Connect. We'll probably bring Claris. We'll probably bring Calvin back another day, another week, and talk more about this. I think it'll be an ongoing conversation. Lastly, mention that this conversation today is going to be kind of for all people, but we're going to be starting with developers who are kind of in this from beginning to intermediate. You're somewhere in this level right here. So if I talk about FileMaker Server, we're going to assume that you know what that is. You're familiar with it. You have a clue about that a little bit. If you don't know what FileMaker Server is, or difference between Pro and Go and WebDirect, then this is not a conversation for you today. But we're going to be starting with the assumption that you don't understand what server is, and then we're going to be talking about connecting Claris Connect to your FileMaker application that's living on the server. And then it'll be a little bit more intermediate to advanced, probably in this intermediate zone for most people. But most of you have not played with this, so it's new, so that makes it exciting. One last element. If you want to make sure you sponsor the broadcast, or you are a contributing person to helping support us, we really appreciate. There's a lot of you here who are supporting us, a lot of you lurkers that are there, Scotts and the TKs and the Mikes and the Elzos and the FMs and the Camp Bears and Bruttermans and Bob and a Lobster and Robert, etc., and probably a couple Carols along the way, and Dave. All you folks, really appreciate it when you support the channel. We really do, because that allows us to pay the bills and keep the broadcasting online and running, because it's a daily event and these people don't work for free. I know, because I paid the bill. So let's switch over to Calvin. Calvin, are you there? Is your face there? You there? There we go. There you go. That's Calvin. Calvin's got his smiley face. So any questions up front? Manuel from Italy is there. Welcome, Manuel. TK says hi. Everyone's saying hi. Okay, Calvin. So, what are we doing? And what are we doing? Tell us.
We're gonna start looking at Claris Connect, and we're gonna start right at the beginning. What you need to do to set it up, and initially just to get your Claris ID set up so that you can have Claris Connect, and then through the purchase process, and then finally, at the end, we will look at connecting it with a sample app that we will provide with you. You can connect it to your account with Claris Connect and try it out. I'll switch to my screen. What is Claris Connect? Claris Connect is this service that lives in the cloud and it connects apps, different platforms, and so it connects FileMaker with other things. Today we're going to be looking at Twilio, but it can also connect with Slack. It connects with different MailChimp and other various cloud platforms, and it can even connect with between two platforms that aren't without FileMaker at all. FileMaker is kind of one of the services that are provided and emphasized because it is a product from Claris. So that is kind of what it is. Let's look, first of all, let's just pull up, I'm looking at the Claris website right now. Does everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we're all there. We're good to go. We are there.
Okay. So let's go ahead and come over here to Claris Connect. And right off, we're seeing the power of automated workflows, and we can see start a free trial. I'm going to start my free trial, see how this works. Now, an interesting thing, it's going to navigate me over here. I'm going to say that I'm from the United States. I'm not sure what this is. It didn't do that to me last. Oh, this is the chat thing that came up. United States. It's trying to get me to chat with them. So here you'll see that this is our trial, the Claris Connect trial. It lasts 15 days. You have to use your Claris ID. So right now we'll see that there's no Claris ID. If I say add to cart, it adds it to the cart, and I say check out. I can check out. I can check out again. Eventually this will fail though, because I need to sign in with a Claris ID. So let's go ahead and create a new Claris ID. So I'm going to say sign up. And I'll put in an email I haven't used for a Claris ID.
Is that a functional account, email account there, Calvin? The Calvin?
Yes, I will
Okay.
receive that email.
Okay, cool.
I'll go ahead and say continue. Ask me if I'm going to save this. I'm going to say don't save. It's going to send me a verification code. This isn't, I haven't enabled two-factor authentication, but it's just checking. And it can take a couple minutes for this to come through. I copy this from my email and paste it, confirm. And I've created my account.
Yep, so the Claris ID is important because you're going to need that for logging into the forums. A lot of you already have a Claris ID, right? It's kind of like an Apple ID. They use it for all sorts of things everywhere. So for those of you who haven't seen this before, it's useful because you're eventually going to probably need it. You can skip the two-factor authentication, obviously, so that's nice.
Yeah, I'm going to skip that for now. And so here now I'm back at the Claris store, and I'm still in the middle of processing my trial account for 15 days. And I'll just go through here and put in my account, my address information. And when we select continue, it'll ask for payment information. It does ask for your a credit card, and you do have to put that in to.
So the trial requires the credit card. So that way, when you forget to shut off the trial, it hits you up for money, right?
It says that it won't hit you up for money even when it expires, but at the expiration, it will prompt you to choose what plan you want, or you can cancel. Mm-hmm. It says that it doesn't charge you if you don't cancel, but I would I'm going to be careful and cancel it. So that would end once you go through that and submit your order. It takes about 15 minutes or so for the order to complete. So we're just going to skip that part of it and jump to an active Claris ID that I have, and that is over here. And let's go to let's go here, and I'm going to go to myclaris.com, and that's where you'll go to access your Claris customer console, and this is where you would access. You could see your FileMaker Cloud and your Claris Connect. If you're on somebody's team, that team will show up here right now. This is my demo RCC team.
Yeah, we're going to have Calvin attach this to our RCC team because we have a Cloud 2 installation. So this is the web interface to where you manage basically Cloud 2, but they've also tied together to where you manage Claris Connect, which is CC. So if you see us refer to CC or Cloud 2, two different products, but you manage them kind of from this interface, which is nice. So right. let's assume that we're going to proceed forward here. Okay. Cool.
And if you don't have any if you don't have any subscriptions, or if you're not tied to any teams, it will tell you that there's nothing for you to look at here. So here, this go to Claris Connect. It's I find it a little confusing to this button here. It just doesn't seem like it pops out very well. So it took me a while to figure out where I was supposed to access it the first time I did this. But go to Claris Connect. That's where you open up Claris Connect to start connecting your different apps and your different services with FileMaker and whatever connections you want to do. So immediately we're brought to this dashboard where we see the projects that belong to this account, this RCC account. And a project is an area where you'll work probably on one. If you have one file on your, maybe if you have different files that you host, you'll have a separate project for each of those that you're working with. You can.
So I'm gonna interrupt real quick. So I sent so there is a help right here to help everyone along. We printed this out a little bit ago and turned it into a PDF. I just put the bit.ly link for that so they can pop up the help if they want to look at the terminology along the way. But there's some terminology there. It's about 19 pages of basic Q&A and stuff in there. It's useful to have that, to skim through that, but I just wanted to point that out. So I just put the links into Discord and to YouTube and to Twitch. So great.
So the help is obviously a really great reference and useful in setting these up and figuring these things out. So here's the projects that we have, and then there's an area called templates. And if you look here, they've got some pre-made templates that will kind of show you what could be done with Claris Connect. So in this case, DocuSign is connecting to Slack, and they're not interacting with FileMaker at all. In fact, now that I look at it, none of these are incorporated with FileMaker. They're all other services. But let's go back over here and let's open up one of these projects. I'm going to select this new project that doesn't have anything in it. And so we have this new project, and the place that you'll be working and really what the project manages are called flows. And a flow is you could almost think of it like a script where there's a number of steps, and each step performs an action, and it goes down this list and flows down the list. So let's say create new flow here, and we're going to give this a flow name. We'll say new flow create. And once we've created this flow, right now it's just a name. We have to select what services we want to connect to. And you can scroll down here and see all of your options. Some of these services you might have, some of these you might be interested in. We've got Box, Dropbox, a number of other services, QuickBooks, Outlook, Slack. But let's go ahead and select FileMaker. But you'll see here we've got Claris FileMaker Cloud and Claris FileMaker Server. For Claris Connect to connect to your app, you will need to have the app hosted on either FileMaker Cloud or FileMaker Server. And what Claris Connect is doing when it connects to this app, your hosted app, is that it's talking to the FileMaker Server through the data API, and this the flow is helping you set up those calls to make it easier to set up than setting it up in a PHP page and such.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt real quick. So just for those of you wondering about this, so unlike Claris, we actually differentiate between different versions of the product. So Claris Cloud 2 is required. So Cloud 2, if you have Cloud 1, a bunch of you had FileMaker Cloud 1 point whatever, you can't use that. You'll have to upgrade. You should be upgrading anyway, because FileMaker Claris sent out a notice today that they're going to shut off Cloud 1.0 in January of 2020 or 2022. January 2022. So what? A year from Jan. So what? 14, 15 months. They're going to shut off Cloud One. Will be shut down, like not a little bit shut down, but like really, really shut down. Not sure how that's really going to go for people who ignore Claris's emails and they keep using it, and then that day comes, it shuts off. I don't want to be there when that happens, but anyway, and then I am consulting the help documentation, and I actually printed it out over here. And so you have to have Cloud version 2 or FileMaker Server 18.0.4 or better. So I'm pretty sure that's what we have going here. So I'm just putting this in there. So the idea is that Claris Connect as a service is going to be able to push, important concept, push data to your FileMaker file, whether you're in the file or not. As long as it's being hosted, the file's open, and it's connected on the internet, then you're going to be able to push data. Claris Connect can push data to it, which is great. So yeah, so Oregon Dean is talking about some other stuff about FileMaker. Yeah, well, but FileMaker Server Linux will be live before Cloud 1 shutdown occurs, right? Cloud shutdown 1 is 14 months away. I don't think that's going to take them 14 months to get the Linux version of FileMaker Server out the door.
Since we want to push data, in this demo we're going to be looking at pushing data to FileMaker from Twilio. And I'm just going to select that, and we'll say new SMS. Or we want, an SMS was received. That's what we're going with. And so whenever we call one of these services, it will prompt us to sign into that service. So it brought up this this sign in, and it's not actually asking for my username and password. It's asking for my account SID and my auth token. So let me go ahead and pull those up.
Yeah, so I'm going to interrupt again here. So the obvious thing here is that that Claris Connect is not going to set up an account for you with these other services. You have to have an account yourself already set up with these services. These services will provide you the secret key or the token or whatever bits and pieces that you need, right? So everyone write that down. That's Calvin's super secret token. Oh, wait a minute. It's part of your free trial, right? So it'll quit working in a couple days?
Something, yeah. Well, no, it stops working when I run out of money on it.
Oh, okay, great.
So so we signed in successfully to Twilio, and we can say continue. Now it's going to ask to select a number, and so if you have multiple numbers associated with your account, you can select that. I only have one number. And what's interesting is it's already talking to Twilio at this point because it figured out what numbers I had. Now I have to set up my callback URL, and this is a webhook. So I'm going to copy this, and it even tells me exactly where to go in the web page. So let me go ahead and copy the link address, and I'll paste that into Twilio. And just if you want to see where that's going in Twilio, as that's loading, I'm going to copy.
So there's two things going on. Calvin's setting it up so he can send messages out of Twilio, but we have to set it up for Twilio to receive messages, responses, etc., and how to ship them back to FileMaker, right? So this is the link that we need to provide Twilio when we're going to have the data come back. Actually, it comes back to Claris Connect first is what it does, right?
Right. So this is telling Twilio where to direct that message, and it's directing the message to Claris Connect, and then Claris Connect will receive it, and it will when we tell it to do. Now I don't have an option. The save trigger is disabled. Now one interesting thing that's really awesome about this is that it makes you test your work as you go. So let's go ahead and send a message to that.
Oh, okay. I see it right here. It says right here you need to test, basically, right down there. Okay.
Right. So test message. We'll send that, and we'll see if this responds. Did it respond? Maybe I didn't. Let me just check over here and see that I saved. Okay. That's my problem. I didn't save.
Ah, you hadn't saved the callback to Claris Connect. You hadn't saved that?
Right.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and make sure, let's say release this number. Cancel. Let me see if this is going to let me change this link here. Copy. And paste. Okay, so there I'm going to save it. Okay, now it's saved. Let's go ahead back over to my messages and send a message, and then we should see that trigger happen. New message. Okay, yeah. So we immediately get a success. So this first step, connecting with Twilio to Claris Connect, worked. Let's say save trigger. And now we have this plus option where we can add an action, an if then, a repeat, or a stop. Let's add an action. And here we're going to send that message to Claris FileMaker server. So in our instance, we are using Claris FileMaker server.
Go back a second.
Another thing that's interesting is if anything goes wrong or you need to go back and change something,
you have to delete
you end up deleting steps an awful lot.
Okay.
So new action.
Okay, so before you select it, go to that. So
it's possible,
and that should be the same thing. So
I was thinking that this was a Claris Connect service that was on premise. But that's a good point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because FileMaker Server is always considered on-premise, right? So this is
right.
If you press that info button there, does it let you do that? What does that do?
Yeah, Claris FileMaker Server on-premise.
Used to
Claris is on-premise software used to securely host FileMaker custom apps behind a firewall and integrate them with other technologies using FileMaker Server 18.0.4 at minimum.
Yeah, so there's two eligible boxes here. We'll click that one. See if there's a different description there. Any of you seeing the differences here between these?
Yeah. So the difference that I'm seeing, and let me take a screenshot.
Yeah, I know. On-premise is FileMaker Server, because when Claris hosts it, they don't host FileMaker Server. They host FileMaker Cloud, right?
Right, and what's interesting when they say that is that one of the differentiators between these two is that one is behind a firewall. So let me open up both of these screenshots. And where'd that other screenshot go? So we'll see, this is the on-premise, and software is used to securely host a file behind a firewall and integrate them with other technologies. Maybe the other technologies are local?
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm obviously not an expert at this because we've been writing our own API. So this is you wondering about the kind of conversation here. So let me jump out here. So just to bring everyone up to speed here. So the reason this is kind of new for a lot of FileMaker, I have a lot of developers out there I talk to. None of them have touched this. None of them have touched this because they already write APIs and they build them. And so Claris created a service that kind of replaced kind of what they were already doing, except that they charge for it. So either you can pay a developer to build it for you, or you can pay Claris basically every month or every year to do what the developer had or would have done for you, right? So that's kind of this conversation. So moments like this is where we're like going, what the hell, right? Because FileMaker Server, there is no server without the on-prem. On-prem is considered that when they talk about on-prem, they mean the regular FileMaker server. So interesting. On-premise has no on-premise has no script triggers.
That was in the screenshot. He's pointing that out. So that might be a limitation of triggering a script.
Well, or the fact that I get it. This is really stupid though, because Okay, so if you're behind a firewall and the firewall is blocking traffic, then you cannot trigger externally into unless someone's opened up the firewall, okay? That's, yeah, we've known that since 1992, right, when the first FileMaker server was created. And then over here, if it's not, it's internet accessible and it's not buried behind a firewall, then yeah, you can trigger into that. I got it. Well, this is a hell of a way of trying to explain how firewalls work. I don't know if the rest of you maybe figured that out. You're brilliant. But the rest of us normal people here didn't get that. Server on-prem, not as important. It comes in media files. Stun is a protocol that will track and VoIP. Okay, so Andre, you just, okay, I'm not going to read Andre's conversation because it's promptly goes too far in the conversation. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying that it's... the idea whether the stuff is, if the firewall's there, it's going to block inbound access to the FileMaker server. It's that simple, and that's really kind of the conversation here. So Calvin, you would want to hit the one that's
not the
public
Claris FileMaker server.
Yeah.
And it gives us a few options. We can create, edit, get record by ID, delete, find, or execute a script. So we're going to create a record. I'm going to say continue. And it next prompts me to log into the FileMaker server. And it's asking for a domain. So and a username. So one point I'd like to bring up here is that you might be tempted to sign in with just your regular credentials, but any record created from Claris Connect will have that as the username who created it. And often you want to have something, if you're having an outside platform connect with your FileMaker server, you want a designated username and password. So I'm going to give this its own username and password. And the database, and an interesting thing, you'll notice that I can't type in a space. Well, I just tried to type in a space. RCC demo Claris Connect messages. So we'll say sign in. And interestingly, it still says FileMaker Server 18 v3 account. This is FileMaker
1804.
Server 19.
Oh, it's 19. That's right.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it keeps thinking that it's 18. And I'll say continue. So at this point, we are telling the Claris Connect where we want to create this new record. And everything is still layout based. We can look at our list of layouts, and I have a designated layout called Claris Connect. So I'm going to select that one. It immediately brings in all of the fields that are in that layout. So that's a lot of fields. Let's go ahead and change, set some of these. So when we have this, we have these buttons on the right to assign each of these fields to a data point from the previous action. So a call was made from Twilio, and now we have that information from Twilio, and here's a list of all of the data that came from that message, and we can assign each of these data points to a field. We can even assign a group of data to a field, and have it appear there as well. So let's go through, and I'm going to select for the body. I'm going to just select body. For created by, that's an auto enter. For from, I'm going to select the from phone number. And for the post text, I'm going to select the new message. And what's also nice about this is you see what the the field name or that data point is, and you also see the value within that data point. So I'm going to select the body, and we'll leave those alone. The to, let's go ahead and enter the to information and save that. And so the rest of these will leave blank. I'll say save. And that's pretty much finished the flow. Let's go ahead and try it out and see what happens. I'll say send a new message to Claris Connect. And let's go ahead and open up my FileMaker app that was down here. And you'll see that I have some test messages in there. Let's go ahead and look at our look at the layout where that was sent and see if there's any issue with it. So it doesn't look like our message came through. So let's go ahead back to Claris Connect and see the history here. We'll enable the history.
Was it enabled or was it not enabled?
No, it was not. The history was not enabled.
The history was not enabled, so now we're gonna. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll try this again, and then those are versions. Let's go ahead and try that again, and let's say review and test. See if there's an issue here. Test action.
It's spinning.
It's spinning. Yep. Let's go ahead and look over here. Let's go back to FileMaker. And we're still at 4 records. We're waiting for record number 5.
So you have this working elsewhere, right, Calvin? But then you're building this here and you're getting a little bit of... You just check it because I'm sure it's one little thing.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and make an adjustment here. I'm going to remove this, that one from the body, and repoint this to something else. Let's point it to here. And I'll say save. So it saved it. And let's go ahead and say review and test action. Okay, so we got an immediate response, and this is.
So what did you have wrong last time? Because I'm not clear.
So, yeah, what I did was I put the body. So I put the whole JSON object in one field, and I didn't think that was going to be an issue, but apparently it didn't work. So let's go back over to FileMaker. We remember we had 4 records, and now we have 5. We'll see over here that we've got our new message that came in, and it was created by Claris Connect. And we'll see the to didn't come through. That's interesting. And the from. So let's see why that didn't work. But maybe it wasn't sending that last action that we did. Okay, it says it works. So let's go ahead and say enable. So when you're messing around with these flows, they're not enabled but by default. It's just you're just testing it as you go along. So I'm going to go ahead and say enable, and now I'll try that one more time. This is a new message. Okay, now let's go back over to FileMaker, and we'll see there's already 6 messages here. There's my interestingly, it didn't. Okay, here it is. Here's the new message, and we'll see that it should show up here in my list of messages. So here we're getting the back and forth between FileMaker and Claris Connect. Now it looks like it was created in the layout and that we were looking at, but for some reason it's not showing up in my list. Let's go ahead and open up this and see why. The relationship is based on a calculation field, and I'm going to go ahead and if we make any changes to this layout and go in layout mode and just edit anything at all, it will break Claris Connect, which is
Okay, hang on. Say that again. If you move something around, it breaks it, or if you add a field to it, it breaks it. Specifically, do you know what breaks it?
Yeah, so I've been very cautious not to touch this. So let's just see, moving things around, will that break it?
It
I'll
should.
make it a little wider.
Yeah.
I would hope not, but it seems very fragile.
Yeah, and this gets back to Calvin. Were you one of the guys that does PHP for me, or do you not do PHP stuff?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's why. Okay, go ahead and run this test, then I'll explain to people what's going on.
Okay. So let's go ahead and try that again. We'll go back over to here, and let's go ahead and just send a message. Say, hello.
Okay.
And over here in FileMaker.
You had a hello at the bottom. There's an 8 right there, and there's the hello. Yeah.
Here it is.
Okay, so the backstory on this, so it's using the data API to move this data back and forth into the FileMaker server. The data API basically is the same technology we've had since whenever the first CDML kind of technology came back. Some of you go way back, but basically you have a FileMaker. There's a page that's talking to that layout and to that, and so what it gets into this, like people always ask, hey, how come you don't use spaces and names of fields and spaces and layouts or special characters? Because when you get into legit web programming, as Andre will say, or any of you other ones here, folks here that do like legit serious coding, there's things that will break the code. Like putting a space, basically like on a browser, on a web page. When was the last time you saw a web page with a space in the name of a website? Like applespace.com or something. It doesn't exist. It's not allowed. It's like illegal. It's like, running naked down the street. Pretty sure most places you can't do that. People are going to call the police on you, right? So, and so putting a space in a file name or in a field name or in a layout name or in anything is one of those like running naked down the street things. You can't do it. If you have a field on a layout and that data API is looking at that layout very specifically to try to put data in there, and you remove a field it needs, it won't partially fail. It fails completely generally. So if the field is defined, say that Calvin's putting data in the to field, and then he decides he's not going to put data in a to field anymore, so he goes to Claris Connect and removes it, and then you remove that field off the layout, there's a good chance right? You don't want to monkey around with layouts that are specifically designed to interact with APIs, with PHP, with web pages, things like that, because they're very precise, they're very specific. For the same reason, if you are setting data into those layouts and you're talking to 5 fields on that layout, right? The 5 that you really need, then all the other fields should be removed off there because FileMaker has to render the data in there. Like if there's unstored calculations, it's going to render those and calculate that. So that could be a performance hit. We've had people with huge summary fields and things like that, and they put them on that layout, right? And then they add data to the database, and it gets going and going, and then it goes slower and slower, and then I get this call, hello, Richard, how are you? Yeah, what's going on? Oh, it's going really slow. What do we do? And so one of the things is you remove the fields off there that you don't need, right? You remove the fields that are not being called that you don't need, that are summaries and auto enter calculations, things like, or not auto enter, but well, even those too, right? Anything that's going to cause extra processing. That is kind of the Claris Connect and the kind of non-polished kind of crash and burn kind of demo that Calvin put together here.
So I went ahead and deleted all of the fields that we don't need. So I'm limited now to these 3 fields. Mm-hmm. And let's see how that affects this now.
See if it still works.
I'm going to send a message. And say,
my guess, if it doesn't work, it's still looking for a field that we don't know it's using.
Crash.
And see
if let's go ahead and look at our history. There's a pending one.
Pending, that's probably it. It's probably aggravated. It's probably looking, it may be a UUID in there or something else that needed, right? That's the thing, right? So,
it went through.
Oh, there it went through. Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So then if you renamed a field, like rename, now you got post is that a space in there? Post space text?
There is a space.
Did it allow to have a space in there? Okay. Well, that's just asking for trouble.
I'll just change it to message.
Yep. That should really break it. Although it's got a every field and every object in it has its own internal ID. It would depend if Claris Connect is using that hidden internal ID, but I would suspect this is going to be a bad moment, right?
Okay, so we changed the name and we got an error.
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
Let's go ahead and see what this error is when it comes up.
So it probably can't find something it's looking for, or doesn't know.
Yeah, so it's looking for the post text, which we renamed.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and back there and fix it. And change, so we got to update this one and point this to, it was called message.
Yep. But you have to.
Oh, we want I'm sorry, it was body. That's
body.
We're looking for body in this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So save, and now it should work.
So pretty straightforward. So let's talk about, come over here, and there it goes, bammo. So now we've restored it and we fixed it. So let's talk about costs and licensing and what does this cost. So Calvin, can you show us what kind of costs every time we dealing with this?
Let's go ahead back to Claris.com.
Mm-hmm.
And the charge for this is based on the API calls. So we've got I guess it starts out at $19.99 per month, billed annually, and I believe that's per user.
No, I think that would be for the group. Yeah, for developer, I'm not sure, but yeah.
Okay, so the right. So this is but you get a number of API requests, and it's a little. It's not necessarily until you start using Claris Connect, you don't realize how those API calls are counted. But initially, I was thinking that a flow, so this one flow right here, would constitute one call. But actually, each step in the flow is an API call. So this is an API call to Twilio or from Twilio, and this is an API call to FileMaker, so 2 API calls. And you can see right over here in the in this account area how many active flows you have and how many API requests have been used. So we've used 20 out of 500 allotted API requests.
Now, Calvin, you had a customer that's using this, right? How are they managing? Yeah. How many calls are they making, or what are they doing, or how does that work with them?
For them, they ended up were using it to import their email into for an account into an app, and so they were going through a lot of their API requests, and I don't know if they actually maxed it out. I don't think they did, since we didn't. I don't remember seeing any errors on it, but I'm not sure that's the part of the reason we went that route with that client was because the Claris Connect could connect with the security was Claris Connect was allowed to connect to their Outlook account, where other providers to read the email were not able to connect with the email account because of their heightened security in their environment. So so that's why we had to go that direction. But we ended up figuring out that they have this 50,000 API calls per month. So if you look at 50,000 API calls, and then you can divide that by divide that by 2, because it's 2 calls per per text message. So you can send 25,000 text messages in a month. So if we divide if we divide 249 by 25,000, where was that? 249 by 25,000, it ends up being about 1 cent per 1 cent per text message going out or in, or email going out or in.
Claris, I was talking to Claris about this, and I said, oh, well, I guess it's kind of like, because what they wanted me to do was they actually never asked me about this until I did get a call like, well, how come you're not using it? And I'm like, well, because it's too damn expensive. And they go, well, why is it too expensive? And I said, well, when we wrote all our APIs up, and we had some of our engineers work on us, and Calvin worked on some of it. We were doing a lot of API calls to PayPal back and forth, a lot of API calls to Slack and some other stuff. And what we were running into is that we were burning about 200 because we're testing, talking to PayPal, because PayPal, with the way they were structured at the time, I don't know if this changed, it may or may not have changed, but PayPal would get paid. There would be a payment that would be made, but they would not push a notification to us that a payment was made. So the only way to find out if a payment was made was to have a robot that would run every hour and check if an invoice has been paid. So at any given time, we had about 200 invoices that were theoretically unpaid, right? And so if you had 200 invoices that were unpaid and you made calls against those with PayPal once an hour, figured that was kind of reasonable, then over the course of 24 hours, you would have 4,800 calls, right? So you can tell that if I multiply that times 30, without Slack or anything else, we would burn through this number big time. And at what point we did the math on it, we kept adding the math and adding the math and adding the math, and it was going to be like $15,000 a year for us to use this. And so we were like, we already have the developers, we already wrote it, it works, and I don't want to pay you $15,000 just because you came up with a new product, right? So, and that's, we were probably closer to 200,000 API calls over the course of a month, right? 200,000. So that starts to get, quite a bit going. Yeah, there's Zapier right here. So the question is David brings up a good point, is how does this play against Zapier? Well, the average FileMaker person, once again, this conversation right here has everything to do with this conversation right here. Where are you in the world of skill set? If you're this person right here, you don't need Claris Connect. Just take a technology like Zapier, and either it'll be free or super inexpensive. So Zapier is a service, but Claris was never really interested in trying to compare against Zapier. They didn't consider that a competitor because Zapier is what you would use if you were a senior developer, but they were trying to target this towards brand new people. This is back to that positioning where I was confused as to who they were trying to position us for. So really, if you don't want to learn to code and you want to connect APIs, Claris Connect is a way to go. And this person right here, or this person in this range right here, can build a workflow and get it going, and it's not horrifically expensive, at least not initially. If you're a senior developer here, you've already been doing APIs, you probably figured out how to do it inexpensively. For example, all our calls back and forth to PayPal and to Slack don't cost me $1. Now, I did have to pay to have them developed, and so the initial developmental cost was, I would say, around $5,000 to $8,000 end to end for all that stuff. And I did that 3 years ago, and then about once a year something breaks on it, we have to make a little adjustment. And so I'm money ahead. Even over the course of 1 year, I'm more than money ahead, like by half, rolling my own. But you have to have the skill set to do that, and we did that, right? So that's kind of the rub with that. So Zapier has a free tier. They have more paid tiers if you want to go down that road. But I can tell you, most of the engineers, see, there you go. Most of the engineers are thinking about, rolling their own APIs and building this with the curl options. Now, David just posted here Microsoft's offering. The pricing on the Claris side is directly determined based upon two things. It was based upon what Salesforce was charging, what Microsoft was charging, because that's who Claris thought or has established as their competitive area in this marketplace. And so the pricing here should be more or less relevant to that. I haven't looked at what Salesforce is charging lately for API calls, etc., or what Microsoft is charging. David, I'm sure, can look at that. I think it's kind of subjective as to how you come to that determination. But basically, this was never designed to replace developers who could write their own, right? Because so Claris at DevCon said it's really for brand new people over here in this area right here, or maybe intermediate people who don't want to learn how to do APIs. And we went, fine, that's not us, so we're not going to talk about it, right? And then they came back and goes, why aren't you using it? Because you said it was for people who didn't know how to roll our own. And they go, no, it's for established everyone, right? Including senior developers. I'm like, okay. So that's one of those like communication moments where you wonder what's going on a little bit. It's like that one graphic Calvin had where we had the on-prem versus the non-on-prem, except that when you talk to Claris employees about this, I was talking about this in Discord while Calvin was talking. They basically have two products. They have cloud. They just say, oh, it's cloud, and that's their current product in market. And then they have on-prem. You got on-prem, you got cloud. There's only two versions of server they have. It's cloud version 2, that's cloud, and then FileMaker server, Mac, Windows, Linux, whatever. Doesn't matter where you stick it, they call it on-prem. So then for them to differentiate a different layer in the flow interface on Claris Connect is confusing, right? Because I've never, ever in 31 years seen them make that differentiation like that before.
Yeah, and it's definitely something to look at. I think really where it's going to be the most useful is not doing something that is repetitive like our robot, something repetitive as far as something that we would need to run like a SASE script that runs on the hour or something like that. Something that is like it's really easy to set up a form for a client to fill out and answer some questions, and then just the way instead of assigning Twilio data points to fields, we're assigning a questionnaire data points to fields in FileMaker, and you can bring that in. And it could be a contact form, and in those cases it could be eliminating data entry on the part of somebody sitting in an office, and speed up those workflows. So it definitely has a place, though sometimes as senior developers we look at other options as well.
I'm not anti-Connect at all. I think it's got an appropriate use. I think it's, once again, more for the beginning. And once again, these lines don't correspond in any way to this at all. This is just the progression of people who don't know anything about FileMaker versus beginning developers, intermediate, advanced developers. Over here is somewhere on this side. You start learning lean design somewhere in here, and then you got Nick Hunter who's over here trying to break off the side of the chart over here with Extreme Ninja, right? Extreme Ninja, right? So, but then they got pricing here to help people kind of play with it. If Calvin is playing with it a little bit and writing some things like this, then $500 per month is probably useful. I think that they've got a 10,000 tier here. Once again, you have to write the process such that it's, I guess, fuel efficient. When we wrote the API for PayPal, once again, I don't know if we could rewrite it without the push from PayPal, right, to be honest with you. So you'd have to see if you could do that. Calvin, when you're looking at
we could see if there's a PayPal option.
Well, there's definitely a PayPal option. I'd be shocked if there wasn't, because they got pretty much hooks for almost everything here. No, you're
Stripe, but not PayPal.
All right, well, never mind. Cancel that. The almost the most dominant online credit card services out there. They're everywhere. Mostly anymore. It's I don't know. That would be interesting to know what the market penetration of PayPal is, but it's a hell of a lot bigger than Stripe is. That's for sure. Andre said there's also Node-RED that you need to self-host it. So once again, Andre just brought up the fact that you could set up your own JavaScript-based web server. Basically, it's a JavaScript server. What's the difference between a $49 plan and a $99 plan, Calvin? Same number of calls, but the cheaper plan has an unlimited number of flows, and more expensive has a limited number.
So one is FileMaker Plus and one is Essentials. And so this assumes that you have a FileMaker licensing.
You have FileMaker what? You have FileMaker.
You have licensing for FileMaker server and such. So it's in addition to your FileMaker licensing.
Well,
and
isn't
Essentials,
isn't that the same as the same? Scroll down, right? I mean, it looks like they both would work with that, right?
Well, they would. I believe they'd both work with that. But the idea, if I understood correctly, the idea is this is if you did not have FileMaker, you would purchase this one. While
no, I don't.
FileMaker,
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that that's about. No, I doubt it. There is an Essentials plan, but here's the deal that came out with this. For those of you who are wondering about this, so when Claris first came out with the product, they came out with, I think Calvin scrolled down. They came out with this one here and this one here, and so you could either get $1,200 a year or $3,000 a year. You have to put it in yearly prices, okay? And so these didn't exist, and so they created these to help the developers, right? So, yeah, I don't know.
There are explanations here at the bottom. Must purchase or have an existing valid FileMaker license or subscription. Expansion pack requires initial purchase, and here it doesn't say that's required.
So must have a valid FileMaker license subscription. So this is what you buy if you're a pirate. So that's what this is. This is specifically you have to have FileMaker. This one you can connect it to your SQL database. David Goldberg asked that one question. We got David. Hopefully we feel like we answered your question, right? The difference between having FileMaker and not having FileMaker. FileMaker's required and you didn't. We're going to pick it up tomorrow with everyone. Appreciate it along the way. And nothing like beating our heads together against the wall collectively. It's useful. All right, thanks.
Just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.